Hello, everyone. It is Rory here at the Eurovision site. I am joined by the lovely Nicholas. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Lovely. Well, in this video, we are going to be talking all things Austria. They had their first national selection in over a decade, and now we have a winner. It is Cosmó with Tanzschein, and we have some thoughts. So let's just get straight into it. So yes, so we have now had Vienna Calling 2026. That was ORF's first national final since 2016, and we have our winner, which is Cosmó with Tanzschein. And I have to say that it was quite an interesting watch. I mean, I guess just to kind of kick us off, I guess Nicholas, what did you think about the show? Did you watch it? I'm guessing you did, yeah.
I did watch it, and I think interesting is a nice way of putting it. I think slightly chaotic, slightly, yeah, we're just gonna do it. Why not? I remember watching their national final last time they hosted as well, and it was the same. It was like it felt like songs were just like picked out of a bin at random, and they gave them some form of staging, and we'll go with it, right? I think it wasn't a bad show necessarily. I think some of the stagings were actually all right, and I think that the whole production seemed professional-ish enough. But I think the song quality wasn't really up to the standard. I mean, considering that we're talking about last year's winner, and the thing that host countries try to avoid in these years is getting 0 points from the public. So having a show like this, maybe not the right time to do it, but I think we had some decent songs, and I do actually like the winner. I'm sure we'll get into that in a second, but yeah, it's a bit middle of the road, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It's really hard because Austria has been really good at the minute with their internal selections, and obviously it's delivered them a win. And I think they wanted to kind of show the fact that they had this opportunity to hand, so they were like, "Yes, let's give it to the audience. Let them have a say and stuff." But it kind of makes you wonder then if they've been coming out with such good quality songs in the internal selections, where is that coming from then overall for the song quality for this year? So yeah, it was a kind of a strange kind of dip for me. I think the overall staging and the overall show quality was professional. They did very well with what they had. Obviously, we had some very poor weather that ended up meaning that, two of the judges ended up having to pull out and have to randomly then have to pull JJ and Eric Papalaya in there together to just in order to give some semblance of a jury. Um, yeah, I mean, it's for a country that doesn't do national finals quite a lot, it was very obvious that they didn't do national finals that often because they would have kind of worked those kinks out quite a long time ago. But yeah, they didn't really bring that to the fore, which is a bit annoying, but yes, oh well. So
It
yes,
almost feels like, it almost feels like getting a little bit behind the scenes of what happens in some of these internal selections. Because I do think sometimes they have a field of mid songs, but the thing that you can do with internal selections that you can't do with something like this is that you can take a concept that works and workshop that to a potential finalist and even to a potential winner. And I think that's actually what we saw with some of these songs and some of the ones that ended quite highly here as well, and some of the fan favorites. I think had they been workshopped a little bit more, had there been worked a little more with the demo, I think they could have been really good, and I think we could have had a really good host country entry, something that a lot of people would have enjoyed. But I think because we are in the situation that we were in now, like people were voting based on what they think could do well out of what they, saw from that 3 minute performance. Some of them didn't land as well as they maybe would have if they had worked on a little bit more, worked on the vocals a little bit more, and that's a shame, of course.
yeah, definitely. But I think, yeah, I mean, let's go into the song quality then. Let's talk about the songs that were in this selection. I mean, the problem is with ORF is that they have got this tendency to kind of really lean into kind of a generic style we sort of see this as well, like back in the old days with like Switzerland's SRF when they were doing like their open call and they were kind of just picking songs that had like a generic message of, heal the world, guys. You can be a superhuman if you want to be, and all this kind of thing. And like it was just very hard to kind of get through that in a way. I mean, like I'm not saying that there's like some elements of these songs were very good for me. I really did enjoy them. Like for example, like I'm just going to throw out some of my favorites that were in here that obviously aren't Tanzschein here, but like I liked Pockets Full of Snow. I liked Das Leben ist Kunst. I liked Superhuman as well. Um, so like I did like some of the songs, and I liked some elements of all of these songs. I think just again, like how you were kind of saying, like this, the whole package is not the same value as the sum of the parts. So it's quite hard to kind of really kind of get behind a lot of these songs when you can still feel that there's just a lot of work that still needs to be done for them. I mean, like what did you think of the overall song quality that we had this year?
Yeah, I think there were some good ones among it. I think like I feel like for me it started off very strong. Like I really liked Superhuman performing first. I also did like the second one in the running order, When ich heute. And I thought, you know what, this is getting off to a good start. I hadn't heard the songs before going into the national final, so I was like, this might be decent. And then it just went a little bit downhill from there. I feel like there weren't really a lot of stuff there in the middle I paid attention to. And then Cosmó in the end with Tanzschein was the one that I had. It was the only one that I'd heard previously because it suddenly popped up on my TikTok like a couple days before. You can do your conspiracy theories if you want, but it popped up there. It was the only one that I'd really heard before the show, and I knew that I was digging that and wanted to hear more of that. But there was just a lot there in the middle that just felt very samey, and like you said, it was that very like save the world, love yourself, love the world, all these kinds of songs that we've heard a million times before, probably all coming from the same songwriting camp, and it all just blended a little bit together for me.
Yeah, definitely. I think the problem is a lot of the time with these countries within sort of Central Europe, like I mean, it's not just Austria here that we're talking about. Obviously, like Germany is a big kind of victim of that too, as well as Switzerland. Like they do kind of just tend to default towards those kinds of songs quite often. Um, and sometimes it works for them, sometimes it doesn't. And yeah, like I think the one thing I will say for this selection though is that we did get a lot of different varieties here in terms of the genres. Like, we had a bit of like metal rock, we had a little bit of like art pop, we had a little bit of like funk, we had some ballads, we had, it wasn't just, you know, a run of the mill, like, yes, here's six songs of all of just the same sound. Like it was good in the sense that, there was options that could be developed further. So I'm glad that like ORF were giving people a bit of chance in that kind of way. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think overall, like again, just the song quality was not the best, but I think overall, like the best song definitely won. So let's just get into Cosmo then. I mean, the song itself, I for me stood out pretty much straight away. I think it was one of the one songs that actually pricked my ears and was like, oh, okay, this is a thing. This is actually kind of interesting. Yes, the staging is absolute batshit crazy, and it still doesn't fully make sense unless you understand the lyrics. But like, I kind of liked it. I thought it was quite fun. Um, but obviously, when you're stuck on this very small stage, like the staging can just be a little bit dwarfed. So I'm looking forward now that they have a little bit of money that they can actually put it in a good position and like really just give it the kind of zaniness that it needs. Yeah, well, what did you think about Tanzschein then and the fact that it won?
Yeah, I definitely had this as my winner after all the songs had been performed as well. I've ended up digging it a lot more than I thought I would. It's currently sitting as my second place out of all the songs for Eurovision this year, which I hadn't imagined going into this, but there is something so much fun about this. And there's also something a little bit nostalgic about this for anyone who is like from around this area. I'm from Denmark, of course. they probably know about a song that was released some years ago by the group Laserkraft, which is a song called Nine. And it has the same kind of like low register vocals in the chorus. It's a dance track in the same way that this is. And it totally reminded me of that. And I think that's one of the things that made me like this so much is that it has that like late 2000s German underground disco electronic vibes. I think that's really fun. And I think that's a lot of people know that sound well. And that's probably also why a lot of people connected with it in the way that they did. But the staging definitely needs work. I completely agree with that. It feels a lot like I just got my friends together and we're trying out some stuff. And I get the message that they're trying to convey. And also when you understand a little bit of German, you do understand that this song is just as much about the creepy men at discos who are just there to try to get the women to sleep with them. And that's why a lot of especially young women avoid nightclubs these days. And I think that's such an important message, but it does, get a little bit lost if you don't understand the language to it, because it just feels like silly men in gorilla costumes. So I think they could work on that while still keeping it within like the Cosmó universe, which definitely feels very like playful and very fun. But I hope, especially because it's a host country entry and you want to do your country proud, I hope they really workshop it and they really do something great, because I think it can be a big moment in the arena, especially if all the Austrian people get together and sing along and you can hear them singing it, then I think it'll be really great.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think as well, it also does help. At the time that we're recording this, we've just found out that Austria will actually be closing the grand final. So if anything, that is like the perfect kind of thing, just to kind of get that huge kind of rapturous applause from people, and really just get the crowd on side as well, just to kind of really finish things. It's going to be so good. I think it's going to be amazing. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, we're talking about like, oh, man dances in silly gorilla costume, like not that many people will like that. I mean, it happened with Occidentali's Karma back in 2017, and people did really gravitate to that. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if it did end up kind of gathering a bit of a cult following. I've already kind of started seeing that a little bit actually on social media. I've seen a few people kind of, talk about Cosmó and the kind of the funky sound, and like I think there's a little bit of that, like how you said, like nostalgia within that. And I think that's a thing that a lot of people really want nowadays. I think that's kind of really just come back into the zeitgeist of stuff. It's like having this kind of noughties kind of sound. And it to me, it feels quite noughties in a good way. Um, I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, the song is really, really good. I think he delivers it quite well. And like you can tell that he can deliver it quite well as well, and you can tell he's written it as well, which is really quite nice. And for a guy who's like, what, only 19 or 20 years
19,
old,
yes.
he's really, competent from that. And like, I know obviously he's done The Voice of Germany, or like The Voice Kids, should I say. And like, obviously he's like, had like a really kind of short career within music, but already he's kind of proving himself that he has like quite a nice vision for what his artistry is going to be like. So I'm looking forward to seeing, even just after Eurovision, just like what he's going to be bringing to the table, because I'm sure he'll be really, really interesting, and I can't wait to see how it's going to go. Let's just quickly talk about the jury slash televote point system as well that we were going on. So, because basically the way that the selection worked was that the top 10 of the jury was revealed first, and then they kind of didn't give anything away and then they just simply revealed what the combined top three was. Which led to quite possibly one of the most hilarious screen grabs of the entire moment when was it oh god, Bamlak Werner just was like called out as that she was in the top three, and she just like looked up and she was like, what?
Yeah, you
like
you captured it perfectly there. 100%. That's what it
like she's
was.
like, huh? Like, I mean, I think to be honest, I don't think anyone was really expecting her to do so well, and it actually then turned out that she had come second with the televote. So the kind of the splits on this is kind of wild when you kind of look at it. I mean, what's your kind of opinions on it?
Yeah, I think as much as I wouldn't be without that moment, because I think that's, that's what you remember from this show. I am really begging Eurovision National Finals producers to stop trying to reinvent the wheel. And I'm not only talking national finals here, I'm of course also talking big Eurovision. We've seen the whole like X Factor style elimination that came and went faster than anyone could have imagined because it didn't work. And that's the thing with these systems. It's just that most of the time they don't work. Here it created a little bit of attention, sure, but at the same time you look at the jury points and you think she's so far down in the jury points that she's not gonna win anyway. Like that would have required someone like Cosmó to come like get like 1 point from the televote or whatever, and I don't think anyone was expecting that at this point. So it is that whole with trying to create fake tension, which everyone tries to do because it's good television and all that shit. And I'm sure when you're actually in the arena it does feel like that, or in the television studio it actually does feel like that. But for the viewers at home with a calculator, you can figure it out if you want. I think they should have just done the traditional, especially because they revealed the points afterwards, after he had won anyways. So it's like, why not just do a usual jury and televote split? That's what I would have done.
Yeah, I think maybe they just wanted to ramp up the tension for the sake of it, but I feel like with the three songs that you had in the top three anyway, I think it was kind of obvious who was going to win. Although it was very strange just in general to see that the jury kind of put Lena Shower in first place. Like I
Yeah.
think that was quite an interesting kind of thing because I don't think anyone was expecting that one to kind of come out of left field. Um, but to be honest, I'm just looking at the televote breakdown here. I mean, Cosmo beat Bamlak with about like an 1,800 like kind of a margin. So like it was quite obvious that he was the one that people really wanted. So yeah, I think it was just better just to be as transparent as possible and not have to kind of overdo anything for the sake of just TV drama. But I'm expecting that if ORF will do that within its own national selection, and maybe we'll probably get something similar for that this year in Vienna. But who knows? Maybe I'm being prophetic. Maybe I'm also just talking out of my ass. Who knows, to be honest, at this point.
I thought
Um,
you were gonna say that they were gonna do it again next year when if they do another national final, and they're not gonna do that, let's be
oh yeah,
honest.
no chance. They've had their one selection now, and then that's it. They're gone again, so it's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. So, well, I mean, to be honest now, actually, yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, the last time that Austria had a selection was 2016, which obviously was the year after they had hosted in Vienna. And then they also, within that selection, they reused like graphics that were being used in other selection, like during the actual Eurovision itself. So, like, I was going to say, do you think that like ORF has the possibility to kind of bring this back, or do you think this is just like a one and done kind of thing?
No, I think this is absolutely about keeping the momentum. I think the only broadcaster who's ever been very forward about this was Portugal. Like when they won Eurovision and then they returned to Junior Eurovision and said, "Oh, we're doing this to keep the thought of Eurovision in the people's minds, so people are still excited when it comes to hosting the show." And I think we've seen that in various cases afterwards. I just don't think the broadcasters are as blunt about it. And I feel like that's the case here. Eurovision is in a difficult place. I think there are, despite ORF trying to pretend like there are no critical voices in Austria, there definitely are. It's in a tough position. The viewership isn't what it has been just a few years ago. So making a national final, having the public's hero, even having this little bit of an underdog story with Cosmo being, someone who wasn't known within the industry, just like JJ wasn't, and then he's coming up and he's representing Austria. Like I feel like that's very strategic for them, and they can really use this to promote the contest so it can get good domestic viewership, because I feel like that's something they might be a little worried that they won't be able to get this year.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea in thinking that, to be honest. I think it'll be interesting to see if they do kind of carry on with this kind of trajectory. Like, I don't see how they could, but maybe they will. I don't know. I mean, stranger things have happened. I think ORF does have the opportunity to do a really good show. And I mean, they've done it over the years anyway. I think it really needs to sort of stop straddling the line of, is this a really good selection or is this going to start slipping down into Germany, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen now, kind of going forward with ORF's strategy. I highly doubt they'll go back to the national selections. If they do, that will only happen if I think Cosmó gets like a top 10 result or something like that and actually keeps them going. But other than that, you know, at least he was able to be chosen as a result of the public as well. It feels a little bit more um democratic, I think is probably the right way of saying it. So yeah. So I'm intrigued to see how they're going to play it now once we get to Vienna in May, which will be fantastic to see. Any sort of final points, obviously, on Vienna Calling just before we kind of wrap things up?
Not necessarily. I think like I alluded to there, I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to do it like this. I think having a national final in the year that you're hosting is great. I think if they can get that hype up around it, I think that's great. And honestly, I do think they could build something. I very much believe in national finals are better than internal selections because I think if you do it right, you can do it really well and you can have a package that already works ready to go for Eurovision. Obviously we're not here yet like we've talked about, and you know Germany hasn't been here ever, and they're it feels like they're never actually really going to get there. So maybe they should look a little further than just to their closest neighbors before trying to figure out if national finals is something for them and how they could improve moving forward. But I think finally it'll just be really interesting to see how this will do. We've had a few years where the host country entry just hasn't really done as well, unless you're Sweden, of course. And it'll be interesting to see where this how this will do because I really don't know. Like it could come top 15th, it could also come last. I feel like there are so many variables here that we don't know, and it all depends on how the audience at home will react to it and what the juries will think of it, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I think that this one is really dependent on the staging and trying to get the message across as much as possible while still maintaining the level of humor to it because it has like how you're saying like it is got a really deep story to it, but it needs to have that kind of fun element still going in there, and it's very hard to do because especially because it's in another language. But to be honest, the last time that we had something like that was Cha Cha Cha. And look at where that ended up coming. It ended up coming second. I'm not saying that Tanzschein is going to come second. I think that would be a miracle if that does happen. I mean, I say that as someone who has it like fifth in my rankings at the moment, but I think it could do respectably well for Austria. You know, like the last time they hosted it, they came dead last with 0 points. I think they're more likely to get something this time. I think it's a bit more strategically possible. Touch wood, anyway. Um,
Just don't bring a fake burning piano.
yeah, please. That's not what we're after. Unless he decides to randomly just throw it in last minute, in which case then good luck to him. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see him like see how the public reacts to him and the juries just in general. I think it'll be really nice. Also just really want to just really quickly touch on the hosts as well. It was nice to see Alice Tumler back again after her last Eurovision hosting gig like 10 years ago. She looks like she's barely aged, which is fantastic. I love to see that. Caesar Sampson obviously also just showing up and just kind of becoming the default Eurovision presenter person for ORF. I'm kind of surprised that he didn't get a hosting gig at all within the entirety of all of this. So I mean, I don't know. Maybe he'll be involved in other ways once we get to Vienna itself, but we'll find out, I guess. Um, but I think overall, like good quality of a selection. I think in terms of the actual show, and it's something that ORF can be proud of, and I think they did a good job hosting it. And yeah, it's a good starting point if they decide to keep on building on it, but it's highly unlikely. So we'll be grateful that we got this in the first place. um,
Exactly.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that is what we think about Vienna Calling 2026. But tell us, what do you think? Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Was Cosmó your favorite song this year? Was someone else your favorite this year? Where do you think Austria is going to finish? Please do let us know in the conversation down below. Thank you so much to Nicklas for joining me on this lovely little episode. It's been lovely just to chat as usual. And yeah, please do like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, do all of that stuff. Please, it just really helps us out. Thank you so much for doing that. Please check out the EurovisionSite.com as well, because you know we have in the midst of pre-party season now, and we have a lot of stuff that is constantly happening now in terms for the news. So, you want to be keeping on that kind of stuff. And also follow us on all of our social media too, all of that at that Euro site. And yes, thank you so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye bye.
Bye bye.